Wait a minute, baby.
I'm Sam Mitchell, and these are my stories.
Stay with me a while.
Hi, folks. Hope you're having a good day today. Let me be the first to welcome you to Autism Rocks and Rolls. Now, before we begin, I must note that I am not a doctor or psychiatrist. If your son or daughter is diagnosed with autism, please see a physician. I only speak based on my experiences. I also don't own the right to this music. Both musics were found on September 2011 and November 28. Now, I have some paid for the following. I want to give a shout out to Farm Bureau. Hey, I would also like to give a big thing to my man, Brandon Barrett at Farm Bureau in Bedford, Indiana. He also gave me a very generous donation to help me build my podcast and business. Visit him there today for all your insurance needs. Please check out Cast for Kids as well. Brandon and his wife run this fishing charity and have helped many kiddos over the years. And I got to give them to Wagon Wheel. Welcome our new sponsor, Wagon Wheel, to Bloomington, Indiana. They are your local shop, steakhouse, and caterer. They have the largest variety of made in-house products that you will find in Southern Indiana, along with their house-made deli side dishes, salads, and lunch meats. They have 8 different flavors of marinades. And they also have DoorDash, so that's kind of cool. And I go to Steve Miller and Angel Shearer. These two have been behind me 100%. Check out Steve Miller Tax Service today in Bloomington, Indiana. I know taxing is over, but there are late fillings too. This tax service will take care of all of you, so call them. And I give it to Sam Hutchison's. Mr. Hutchison's runs the Hope for Xavier Foundation and the podcast on Acre, Xavier's Journey. One inspiring man and an excellent father. Like my mom, he and his son, #1 fan, and his true advocate in his corner. Please check out the work of this feeling if you want to be inspired. And I went to Patty Daner. I want to tell you something very cool about my friend Patty Daner, editor of the Greene County Daily World newspaper in Greene County, Indiana. Her art, juxtapositions, and explanation of color and light by Patty Daner and Eric Wolf, two friends and abstract artists showing their own works, collaborative pieces which blend into two styles. The show will run through the month of June at the Carnegie Heritage Art Center in Linton, Indiana. An artist reception will be held on June 4th from 6 to 9 p.m. All works well will be available for purchase at the Carnage. Good luck, Patty. We love you. But I also have some people I'd like to thank. I want to thank Jamie Springer from PALS for purchasing the Quick Package podcasting coaching session. If you're interested in starting your own podcast, check out my website for various packages. I can help you out. And thank you to my friends Benny, Amy, and Connor Flynn. Benny gave me a various donation. We thank him very much. And I did it on May 22nd. I graduated from high school, Bloomington Ivy Tech, and Mid-Says University. Here I come. There are simply too many people to thank for that. If you were a positive influence in my life and on my podcast journey, thank you. Now, before today is one of the days where we have to actually draw for our big shirt. So let's see who won. And it looks like to me our winner is Benita Mabel from the Squash Podcast. So woohoo to her. We'll make sure to deliver your shirt, Miss Mabel. And folks, we'll be right back. We have a quick break, but then we'll get into what we're going to do today. Stephen R. Miller, CPA in Bloomington, Indiana, will take the stress out of your tax preparation and filing. With over 35 years of experience, he is knowledgeable, friendly, and will help you reach your goals of minimizing your taxes without having to spend days reading through dry, technical, and difficult materials. Mr. Miller will prepare your forms and meet with you prior to filing to make sure that you know what to do and when to do it. Stephen Miller and assistant Angel Shearer will make sure your tax prep is easy. See them today at 205 North College Avenue in Bloomington, Indiana. Tax season is right now and not around the corner. Call Steve and Angel at 812-332-0557 or email at stmillercpa@gmail.com. Do it now and don't wait until the last minute to do your taxes. All right, folks, and we're back. And yes, please check them out because if you need help with your taxes, they'll take care of you. Now, today, folks, we got a very special guest today. Sara Tomko is not only an advocate for social justice, but working to stop the problem of racism, spreading the message of equality, a singer, an actress, but she is also an advocate for mental health as well. Sara Tomko starred in the series Sneaky Pete exclusively on Amazon Prime and my favorite show, or one of my favorite shows, Resident Alien as Asta on Sci-Fi. Ms. Tomko believes that everyone should take care of themselves, disability or not. Those on the spectrum often do not feel confident in themselves because they are looked as not normal or different. This can often cause anxiety or depression, which is not good for a person's mental health. I will dive into the topic of taking care of your mental health with Ms. Tomko, and we will learn about her accomplishments thus far. We're not only viewers and fans of Resident Alien, but now we're fans of Ms. Tomoko's work for mental health. Welcome, Ms. Tomko, and how are you doing?
Oh, I am so happy to be here. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me.
So my first question to you is, what does being a mental health advocate mean to you?
Whew, that's a great question. Being a mental health advocate to me means that you are loud and proud about talking about mental health. I think it's so important in any aspect of your life, whether it's career or relationships, friendships, projects, endeavors, that you are always tapping into your inner psyche and being your own best friend. I feel like as human beings, as a species on this planet, we have a really, overwhelming tendency to be insecure and to question ourselves and to doubt ourselves. And so I've found, as I've been pursuing my career, mental health goes hand in hand with that. You can't really observe being a human being, which is what I do as an actor, without observing yourself, who I am as a human being. And I think that being a mental health advocate is, about talking about that out loud, about talking about that with other people, and about making sure that everyone else besides you knows that they're not alone.
Yes, no one is alone, period. Now, did you have any experience with mental health before you became an advocate?
Yes. For sure. I've definitely suffered from depression and anxiety. Anxiety, it could be my middle name, Sam. I'm telling you, there have been days where
Welcome to my life, buddy. You don't have to butterflies, but anyway, that's my life for sure. Ooh, I think I explode my brain out, or my sweats. I lose sweat too much.
Yeah, I know. Sweating is a big part of the anxiety, as well as tears. Lots of tears.
I haven't had tears yet.
No? Okay. Well, you're the sweater and I'm the crier. And together we are just very, anxious people. But it's okay because we fix it with laughter and talking about it. We fix it with having this conversation and these good friendships and making sure that we're tapping into why we're upset and what's making us upset and talking about it. Depression and anxiety love to hide. They love to be in the darkness. And so when you shine a light on that, it's hard for depression and anxiety to stay strong. They lose their power when you bring them to the light, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Because you're basically trying to play the most impossible game of hide and seek is what it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. And depression and anxiety love to hide. They love to hide underneath underneath the clothing that you're wearing. Like, you can feel it on your body. They like to hide in your dreams. Sometimes you have really anxious dreams and nightmares during the day. They love to hide, especially in your thoughts, right? Sam, I'm sure you can agree. Our thoughts, our brain are on fire sometimes with anxiety. We have this ability to what I call ping ponging. Have you ever played ping pong? It's like one thought goes from one to the other, and then it goes faster and faster and faster and faster until you can't play anymore. You're just so exhausted that you don't want to play at all. And I feel like I've definitely had plenty of run-ins with my anxiety. And I got to a point where I realized I needed help. I needed to talk to somebody. And I needed that somebody to be, a therapist, somebody who understands the brain and what it is to be human and isn't emotionally attached to my life. It's one thing to talk to a parent or a friend or a loved one, but it's another thing to talk to a professional who understands how the brain works and can help you sort through your thoughts.
And that is true. And I believe you, but I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying I don't believe in psychologists or psychiatric help because that helps people. But to me, that's never helped me. Because for me, I'd rather get help with a trusted one because I have really bad trust issues, like really bad, just from my past.
Sure.
But that's the reason. It's not because them, it's because of others. So it's kind of unfortunate, but it's the truth.
Yeah, you know what? I love that, Sam. I love that you know yourself well enough to know that therapy is not necessarily something that works for you. I think it works for, someone like me. I needed to have someone like that in my life.
Sure, I totally get that.
Yeah, but I think what's important and what you and I are both saying is that it's about trust issues and doubt and being able to learn how to trust yourself. And if you can't be your own best friend, then how could you possibly trust yourself? And so
bingo.
So I've been working a long time now on being my own best friend. I sit down with myself every morning. I like to do tarot. I like to journal. I like to sing and play guitar, which really I feel like is very meditative. And I think also friendships. Don't you find it's really nice to have good friends you can talk to about some of this stuff?
Oh, my goodness, 100%.
I think that that's probably the number one healing relationship is having really trusted friends. I call them my circle of trust. Do you have a circle of trust?
Yeah, I would say so. Cool. I mean, I would go to more people than others, but I would say there's a circle.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Sam? Those people that you would go to more than others, they're the circle of trust, not the others. The ones that you really trust, they're the circle.
Yeah, I'll keep them names, but I can name them off the top of my head.
Oh, cool. All right. We'll keep it, anonymous for now. Yeah. But I think that's awesome that you and I both.
Idea. What were your initial thoughts when you decided that you wanted to be a mental health advocate?
I realized that as I was becoming more successful in my career, I had a bit of a platform where people were actually coming to my Instagram or my Twitter. They were starting to follow me more because they were seeing me on TV. And I thought, instead of just posting about things I'm doing that day or what my food looks like or a pretty picture of a sunset, I thought, why don't I start talking about mental health? Because this is something that I struggle with. And I bet there's other people who follow me that struggle with it. And sure enough, once I started making posts about mental health advocacy, I got some feedback from people who would reach out and say, thank you so much. I really needed to hear that today. And I realized as much as I needed to say it, to get it out, to make sure that I was being present and vocal with myself about my own mental health, other people needed to hear someone saying it out loud. And I realized there's power again in shedding light on that subject. So when I started, making posts about it on Instagram and Twitter, it felt like I was coming out of that hide and seek closet, right? I was finally saying, no, I'm not going to let depression and anxiety control me anymore. I'm going to start talking about it out loud. And the more you talk about it, the less powerful it controls you.
Yeah, and I think based on time, you're like proud of it. You're proud of it's a part of your life. I'm proud of my autism. I'm trying to embrace that fully. And I see what you're trying to do that are trying to encourage others to do that.
Yeah, you know what? That's great, Sam. It's so beautiful the way you said that. I am proud of my mental health issues. I think that you can't be an artist, honestly. You can't create without having a little bit of pain involved, right? A little bit of tragedy because you're really pensive and you're really thinking about that pain and what that means to you, or you're thinking about your sadness, or you're thinking about what the world means. And that can be really scary. And so it's really hard, I think, to be an artist without anxiety. So I have to be grateful for my anxiety because it helps me be a better artist.
Well, that's actually, I didn't even think of that. I'll be honest with you. I mean that sincere. Like, really, wow. Actually, I've never thought of that.
It makes you be a better human being too. It makes you be a better autistic human being in this world. And it makes you be a better artist too, because you're constantly thinking and then sharing those thoughts with the world. And that's your art.
Exactly. Like you're just painting a picture, but not like outsidely, but
not literal, but metaphorical.
Yeah. Metaphorically, you're painting a picture.
Yeah. I love metaphor.
I can tell. My mom's an English teacher, so I love metaphors, idioms. I got the English brain from her.
That's good. English teachers were my favorite. Tell your mom I love English teachers.
Oh, I will. Now, this is kind of an odd one, but how do you think like a mental health advocate brain operates from your perspective?
Well, kind of like what we were talking about with that ping pong metaphor. I feel like you start with one thought and then it kind of, just like the way fire would take over a matchstick, right? Like the minute you light a matchstick and the fire starts to burn it down. I feel like you start with this, this one thought, and then everything else starts to get mixed into that thought. And then it becomes powerful and it grows like the fire on the matchstick.
You overload it.
Yes.
You overload. You're just like, you put it there. You're like, you just keep feeding information down the slide, like
yes.
more goes down, which is.
And depending on the day, depending on the type of anxiety you're having, it becomes a bomb or an explosion. All of a sudden you have like so many thoughts and feelings around you and you're like, what happened? Why am I so upset? And then if you really kind of break it down, you go back to that little teeny thought where it began. So I feel like when you look at, my mom and I actually joked about this once because my mom is not somebody who suffers from anxiety like me. And I always said to her, I wonder what it looks like in your brain. And she said, I think there's a hammock and an ocean. And I thought, wow, I want a hammock and an ocean in my brain. My brain looks like there's bullets flying everywhere. There's like electricity. There's fires.
Sparks
happening.
Flying.
Sparks flying. My brain would love to take a vacation in my mom's brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. It's kind of unique, actually. Now, what would you say would be like the most rewarding and most difficult thing about being a mental health advocate?
The most rewarding thing about being a mental health advocate is finding out how many other people who I have talked to about mental health are suffering and how we have gotten stronger as a society by talking about it and shedding a light on it. So I'm rewarded daily by being my own best friend, working on my practices, making sure that I am doing my best to read things that inspire me, to watch things that make me feel good, and to also be really honest. I think honesty is a key element to mental health rewards. But I also think that, the downside of being an advocate is that you are constantly in the spotlight. People are looking to you for answers. And Sam, nobody has the answers. Sometimes we're just floating on a ball in the sky, right?
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen.
That's right. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Right. Anyways, okay. You got me singing now.
Okay. It's all right. I don't care.
And so, it's not a problem. It's just more of, it can feel a little bit like pressure sometimes. Sometimes you feel a little bit of pressure when you're in the limelight and people are looking to you for answers and help. And some days you don't feel like giving help. And that's the days that I feel like I need to be the most honest. On the days that I don't feel like being helpful.
The days you're not 100% is the days you need to boot it up a little bit.
Yes. Those are the days I need to talk about it even more. I need to just say out loud, you know what, guys, I don't feel good today. And I don't know why. And I don't want to get out of bed. And that's when you really have to talk about it, because that's the days that they're hardest. And then you have other people who are also advocates making you feel better by coming back and saying, hey, I've had those days too. So it ends up being a give and take.
It does, actually.
Yeah.
What would you say? What advice would you give to someone who is wanting to be a mental health advocate?
I would say the advice I have is just be 100% honest. Don't try to pretend to be something you're not. Don't try to make yourself happy because people are watching. Be honest. When you're having a bad day, be really honest about it. And when you're having a good day, be really honest about it. My dad says, this too shall pass, which we've all heard that phrase before, but he reminds me that that's also something you need to say on your good days. This too shall pass, even on your good days. So when you're having a good day, my dad says, enjoy the shit out of it. That's what you should do, right? On your best days, enjoy that you are doing it right and that you're feeling good about yourself and that you're confident. And on your worst days, just remember, this too shall pass.
Yes, ma'am, I will. And now let me ask you a little funny question. Did your resident alien dad say that or your real dad?
My real dad, my real dad also is somebody who has suffered before from depression and anxiety. So he and I talk a lot about it. It's actually something we bond over because it's something that we believe passed down through different generations in our family.
Yeah, I gotcha. I was trying to make a cool transition because next thing we're talking is Resident Alien, but unfortunately I was kind of thinking it didn't quite work out as I planned to.
It did. You know what? My resident alien dad and I, his name's Gary Farmer. He and I also have really great conversations on set and they're always really wonderful. And he's just the sweetest guy, but we have talked before about taking care of yourself. So it's a great transition, Sam.
Thank you. I tried. I actually really did try.
You did great.
Thank you. So now, how did you feel when you got the call that you would be a part of Resident Alien?
Oh my gosh. So good. Okay, so I was with my husband and we weren't married yet, but he and I had made a film together and we were so very proud of it that we decided we were going to go show it at a theater with a bunch of our friends. And I had auditioned for Resident Alien the week before and I hadn't heard anything. And that night, the night that we were getting ready, Sam, I was putting on a really cool outfit. My husband was putting on a really cool outfit. My brother was in town. All of a sudden, I got the phone call and it was my manager and my agent and they were calling me together, which they never do. And they said something like, I'm really sorry to tell you, you booked it. They totally fooled me. And then I started screaming. I ran over to my brother who was blow drying his hair. I said, I got it. And he said, you got it. And then we started hugging and laughing and dancing in the living room. And my husband and I were all we were so excited. And then we were like, oh, we got to go to the show. So then
so ready to panic mode.
Yeah, we were like, oh God, we got to go. We didn't tell anybody. We kept it our little secret because I wanted to make sure that the film that we were premiering that night got the attention. I didn't want to take attention away from it. So we enjoyed the film. We had a lot of fun with our friends and we didn't tell anybody. But then the next day I called my parents and I freaked out and it was so fun.
Give me like one surprise fact about Resident Alien. Like what's some like surprises about Resident Alien? You want to know like some with the filming, some about one of the characters. Your call, you want to answer it.
Okay. Surprise, meaning like something people wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah. Like the viewers wouldn't know about Resident Alien. What's up? Like I like drop the papers right now. I guess.
Well, I can't tell you any I can't tell you any plot point secrets, but I can say that working with Alan Tudyk, everybody loves him. He's so funny. But I think what's surprising about Alan is when the cameras aren't rolling, he's very quiet. And he sits in his chair and he shows pictures of his dogs who he loves. He has 2 sweet little doggies and he has his wife, Carissa, whom he loves. And he talks about his wife and his dogs and then maybe some politics on the side. But usually he's pretty quiet. He's listening to music. And I feel like that is so surprising about him because when you meet him, you think that because he's a funny guy, he's going to be funny all the time. And I think that probably happens a lot to comedians. But Alan is actually really reserved. He's very sweet, very tender, very kind, and very quiet. He likes to just, kind of prepare himself for his scenes.
Oh, I have to do that too. I'm a reserved guy, but I've heard this. Reserved people sometimes are the funniest because they don't open your mouth, but when they open their mouth, oh Lord, you better be prepared to get a diaper on.
Exactly. It's like he's conserving his energy for the moment that he's on camera. So I think it would be a big surprise to people who actually got a chance to meet him and work with him. They'd see that he's actually pretty reserved, and that's because he's conserving that energy for the camera.
Now, just for my peak, when's season 2 coming out? Is it because I'm trying to find it online and stuff? I can't find nothing on it.
Well, we haven't even shot it yet, Sam, but we are going back to Canada in July. We start shooting in August and we are supposed to be shooting all the way until next year. So I'm not really sure when it's going to air. My guess is kind of around the same time that it aired this year.
Okay.
February, right around the same time. Maybe like kick off the new year with it, but I really don't know. We haven't decided.
That's okay. I understand. I was just trying to find information. I couldn't. And can I make a guest appearance?
Oh my gosh. I hope so. I'll ask.
Oh, sweet.
Honestly, I will ask, Sam. We'll see.
Oh, I'd love to make an appearance on that show.
That'd be so cool. You could be eating some pizza in the background. You know how Harry loves pizza.
Yeah, maybe just be like, what's up?
Exactly.
Now, from season 1 of Resident Alien, what is like your favorite scene and the funniest scene? Because, half the stuff in there is so funny.
Oh my gosh. The funniest scene. Ooh, well, anytime that I'm with Alice Wetterland, she plays Darcy, we have a blast. So I'd say one of the funniest episodes for me was episode 3, when we got to go on the beach together. And then we got to go to that high school party that we didn't realize was a high school party. And then we ended up showing up to Harry's cabin and we had to go to the bathroom. I thought that I couldn't love Alice Wetterland more, but every time we're in a scene, I feel like I fall in love with her even more every time. She's so funny and we have such a blast together. Those are some of my favorite scenes, are the ones with Darcy. But I'd have to say from the pilot, do you remember when Alan is like juggling intestines in front of me?
Yep.
That was hilarious. That was the first time I was really working with Alan, and he did a different take every time. Every single time he came up with something new to do, touching the brain and, pulling on the intestines. And it was everything I had in me to not laugh during the takes because I had to be mad and serious, but that was pretty funny.
That was funny. I'll tell you my favorite. It's a rare one. It's a sheriff one on the show. What's his name?
Yeah, Corey Reynolds.
Corey Reynolds.
Sheriff
I love it said, listen up. And they're searching for the body. If you have to pee or poop, do it on the side of the boat.
Doesn't he say something like, be quiet, I want to be able to hear a mouse piss on cotton?
It must have said that. It probably did.
Like that.
Now, another one is the kid and the family. They seem like a nice family, like on TV. Are they like that in real life?
They really are. Levi and Meredith and Judah, they all play, Mayor, Ben, and Kate and Max. And they are the loveliest human beings. I have to be a little bit biased here, Sam, because Meredith is one of my best friends. And I'm talking, I have known her for over 20 years. and she and I booked the same show. So I couldn't believe it when she booked the show, and then she got to play this incredibly fun role. And that last episode where she's beating the shit out of those people, that was hilarious. That's one of my favorite
That
scenes.
was one of my favorites. Is the very first play when the starships came on, when he started doing that.
Yeah, when he's
I
dancing.
thought, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Well, that was one of my favorites too, because that's with Darcy again. Anytime I'm with Darcy and we're laughing and dancing, it's a good time.
It is a good time. Fun fact for you, in the car when I'm like, hey mom, because I do listen to Starships every once in a while. It's one of my favorite songs. So when that song's like, hey mom, like raise the hands up just to get it started.
Yeah.
I can't dance up on the seat, unfortunately, but if I could, I would. You think Resident Alien actually represents mental health in any way? Because to me, when I watch Alan, I'm thinking, okay, he has something. Like, to me, he reminds me of like a mental health disorder. Like the character Harry, he reminds me of like autism, not schizophrenia, like OCD or something like that.
Oh, totally. You know what? A really cool concept that I don't think I've really thought about, but now that you're saying it, I agree with you 100%. You know, Harry is an alien, so he's already kind of out of this world. But as an alien trying to understand what it's like to be human, you're right. He is a bit on the spectrum of sorts, because he's trying to figure out how to be in his body and how to speak and how to behave emotionally. And that's something that I find a lot with people. In general, as humans, we have this tendency to emote. And that is the difference sometimes between people with or without autism, is this ability, like you were just saying, like maybe you don't cry as much as I do, but it's not like you don't emote. You just emote in a different way.
Yeah.
Right?
I have like, what I call them is, Sarah, internal meltdowns. Like, I don't like, ah! I don't do that. I'm
Right.
I'm like, just, my body just like shuts down. I'm not excited about anything. I'm just like, I'm not like talkative to people. I'm just like, hey buddy, how you doing? I'm kind of like the one-worded guy who's acting like I'm not interested in you, which isn't true. It's just, whoo, it's going through a rough hoop right now.
Yeah. I think that that's something that you probably have to struggle with sometimes, that people don't know. They don't realize you're going through something so emotional, but it's inside. They can't see it. And that's true for Harry too. He can't show people he's an alien. So he has to feel all these feelings as human internally. So you're right. It is really similar. I never thought about that before.
It is. I love the fact that he changes though. I mean, I always joke around. I think Harry would have be better human than an alien. I always joke around with that, but it's true, kind of.
That is a great joke. And I think you're right. I think Harry is a better human than he is an alien. He's failing right now as an alien because he hasn't obliterated the earth, right?
You ain't a kid. Now, I do have some more mental health questions for you.
Sure.
So what has being a mental health advocate taught you?
Being a mental health advocate has taught me that there's no shame in having mental health issues. And it's taught me that my grief is beautiful. And it's taught me that my anxiety is important and that I'm important. The way that I think about the world is important. And mental health, it's opened me up. You think about mental health and you think about it closing you off. Like you were just saying, you have these emotions that happen internally. So sometimes it feels like you're being closed off from the world. But I feel like now that I've become a mental health advocate, it's opened me up to the world. It's actually shown my truth to people. And I think it's really easy to walk around pretending that we're not in pain, but we all are.
We all are. And that does make sense, because it kind of reminds you of something my mom kind of taught me. Funerals in general, they're supposed to be sad, right? I mean, all of them are.
Well, for the most part. Granted.
But why aren't we celebrating their life a little bit, Some people have celebrations of life. Why aren't we, crying about they're gone, obviously, but why are we not being happy that, holy crap, why they made these memories with me? Like, I can reflect on the time that they did this.
Most of the time when we lose people, especially if it's something that involved sickness or pain, then their death, it becomes a relief and a release of that pain. So you feel, happy that they're no longer in pain. The hardest deaths are the ones where they're sudden and you didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Those are really
those
tough.
are the worst. I've never had anyone die close to me yet. I mean, I've had to go to funerals for extended family members, but I'm just trying to hold on to my family. And that's one of the things that, believe it or not, this pandemic has taught me. I've never liked this pandemic. Never have. I thought, God, this is a load of BS. But one thing this COVID pandemic has taught me is tomorrow is a privilege, like off the bat.
That's right. That's really beautiful. Quarantine really did. It made us go inside. It made us reflect on ourselves and the things that we want and the people that we love and what really matters in our lives. And it made us really kind of realize tomorrow's no guarantee. And that's the thing I was going to say about death. You know, no matter how it happens, we don't know what comes next. So one of my favorite quotes that I found at the beginning of quarantine, and it really helped me get through quarantine, is, "You don't know enough about the unknown to fear it."
You don't. You can't be a time ball. You can't have your crystal ball.
It could be, you know, just recently.
Predict it.
Yeah. Just recently, my husband and I got married, and we were supposed to get married at one venue, but then there was a fire in Topanga, and that fire made our venue evacuate in a matter of 48 hours. We had to find a new venue and figure everything out. And you would think that we would be so devastated that we had to turn everything around. And you know what, Sam? It was really hard. And thank God for all of our circle of trust and our friends. They really stepped up and really made it happen for us. But the thing that I think I keep thinking about is, what would have happened if we had stayed at that venue? What if someone would have gotten hurt? Or what if something would have happened even worse? It's one thing to look at it and say, oh man, I'm so upset that that fire happened. It's another thing to look at it and say,
yeah, you're like,
wow.
oh, darn it, that fire, like I don't have my wedding, you know?
Yeah, but it's another thing to look at it and say, well, what did that save me from? What did that protect me from? Maybe something bad would have happened there.
Yeah,
I wasn't supposed
I
to
want to
get
just
married
say though,
there.
for that fire, I hope have you heard from anyone there? Is anyone doing like okay? Are they on the road to
everybody's
recuperation?
doing okay. There was only one injury of a fireman that we know of. There was no deaths. There was no destruction of property. So they were able to contain it. There was definitely some parts of the land, obviously the acreage, that was destroyed because of it, but nobody was killed in this fire. And that's really, really great. Ultimately, we were just grateful that we were able to be safe, all of us.
That was grateful. I bet you that's another, like, tomorrow's a privilege. Like, you just keep, that's what I would have went to.
You know what? We ended up finding another venue. It was wonderful. Our friends still came. We still got married. We still had a celebration of life, and tomorrow's no guarantee. So what does it matter where we got married?
Exactly. Right? And congratulations on getting married to both of you, by the way.
Thank you. I'll tell him for sure. Thanks.
Okay.
Sam.
You are very welcome. Now, this world has a tendency to have that negative stigma on mental health, which is what I'm trying to remove. So how can the world be more accepting of mental? Like, for me, like, I have like autism and I have really bad anxiety. How can the world like understand, like, hey, you know, he's not being rude to you with that. It's just ignore or shun you. He's just having this really bad anxiety attack, kind of, where to the point where he's just not talking to people. How can that person understand that?
You know, I think it starts with like parents and teachers talking about it more with their own kids. So, you know, I think as adults in this world, we have a responsibility to the generation of children that are being raised. And I think it's important that we talk about how people are different, that no one person is the same, that anxiety exists. And I feel like if I could have had those tools sooner in my life, I might not have suffered as much as I did in my 20s, because I would have had maybe teachers or adults or people in my life telling me that it was okay to suffer. You know, I have really great parents. They taught me as much as they could. There's only so much your own parents can teach you. And I think it's important that other people in the world, other people that you meet, have the same compassion to look at one human to another and say, hey, he might be going through something. Let's leave him alone and not take it personally. And that takes a lot of guts. That takes a lot of taking your own ego out of it and saying, you know what? I'm not going to take this personally. Whatever Sam's going through today, he's obviously going through something, and I'm going to be here when he's ready to talk about it. I wish we could do that a little bit more. And I feel like if there were more adults teaching children that in the various places, you know, we all have role models. If everybody had the willingness and the kindness and the compassion to treat others with that respect, that maybe they're going through something and it's hard and it's not our fault and it's not personal, then we wouldn't be taking things so personally all the time.
And what's kind of sad about it is we have friends in this world. And granted, I'm not saying that part stinks. That'd be awful to say. And that'd be really stupid to say. But what's sad is you have to go to those people I wish I could go to this person, but I know they won't understand 100%. I won't feel as comfortable with this person. You get what I'm trying to go at?
Yeah, I do. And that's where your circle of trust is so important. You need to know where to go and who you can talk to. And there are some people who are just never going to understand. And I think your job as a mental health advocate, just like my job as well, is to recognize when some people don't have the ability to have that compassion. And then you, Sam, and you, Sarah, we don't take it personally if somebody doesn't understand us.
You try to educate and teach. You tell that person, hey, here's the deal. I understand that you don't know right now. Let me explain what's going on here, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's where we have a job. You and I, as advocates, we have the job to help educate others, to help others say, hey, this is a time for compassion, not judgment.
Bingo. Time for compassion, not judgment. That it really is, actually. Now, real quickly, I forgot to ask you with Resident Alien, do you see any resemblance with your character Asta and yourself?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
When I first got the comic book, I looked at her and I thought, that looks like me, on the cover. I just felt really strongly that I really connected with her right away. And then reading the script, she's very sarcastic, but she's also very emotional. And she has a lot of things that she's thinking about, very dramatic. And, not to put myself down or anything, but I happen to be a little dramatic sometimes. And I happen to be a lot emotional sometimes, as we were talking about. I mean, I cry when I laugh. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm happy. I'm always crying. I'm a crier. So to see that Asta is so tapped into her emotions, that felt pretty familiar to me. The thing that we don't have in common is I really don't like to wear jeans, Sam. I really don't, but she wears jeans all the time.
I feel you. No, here's a reason. It's a sensitive issue. You know the pocket? It's on your bottom, basically, yes. That's the one reason why I hate them.
Hate the pockets. I hate the way they look on my body, but you know what? Asta loves jeans.
I think they look good personally on you, and that's a compliment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and so does Asta. And she, she's a minimalist. She doesn't really have to wear much. She just likes her cool leather jacket and her cool jeans and her cool boots. And what I like about her is that she's simple, and that and I say simple meaning she doesn't need much. She just wants people to love each other, and she just wants people to understand one another. And at the same time, she wants to be understood. So I feel really, I feel like she's a kindred spirit because I feel very similarly. I want people to just love each other and understand each other. And I also want to be understood.
Sure. I could see that with you and with Asta as well. I think I want to talk about now Sneaky Pete a little bit. So how'd you get asked to become Suzanne Sneaky Pete?
Oh my gosh, Sneaky Pete, I did a self-tape in my living room. And you know what, Sam? I loved that audition because I had a couple moments where I made some mistakes in the auditions, and I got to a point where I just said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about this audition anymore. I'm just going to have fun. And I'm just going to do it the way that I think that I feel like doing it. And I'm not going to worry about it anymore. And I sent it off and I got it. And that was a really beautiful, wonderful example of how, as an actor, sometimes we think too much. Sometimes we think too much, and we need to just have fun and not
breathe. Take the deep breath.
Yes. And the more that I started having fun with my auditions, the more that I started realizing whether I book it or not is not the point. It's just to have fun.
Are there any similarities between Sarah and you? I mean, Suzanne and, wow, I can't even get the names right. Suzanne and you.
Suzanne is very different than Asta, right? Suzanne is somebody who's very clean and put together, and she likes things a certain way. She's a little OCD. So when things start to go awry, she kind of unravels a little bit. I'm similar with Suzanne in that way. I like to, I'm not necessarily OCD, but I do like a good plan. I like to put things together and organize. And when that plan unravels, it can be a little much for my anxiety, but that's what I'm working on. I'm working on being a little bit more go with the flow, and tomorrow's no guarantee. Let's have fun. Let's breathe. And I'm trying to be a little bit more like Sam.
Laid back.
More like Sam, less like Suzanne.
Got it. And I'll tell you, maybe this kind of story can resemble you. When I went to Texas, I wrote like a full itinerary, and when something like didn't go away, I like busted out like because of it didn't go the way I wanted it to. But then I went to Florida, and went with the flow and was pretty laid back. That vacation was so much better than the one in Texas.
Yes. My husband took me on a road trip once, and I had never done a road trip without planning it out. But he said, what if we don't plan a thing? And I was like, oh, I don't think so. I don't know. And he said, no. We're going to have so much fun. And Sam, it was the best road trip of my life.
Just had to learn from him. He did it, though. He persuaded you.
He persuaded me to not plan a thing. And I hope to God I never have to take another road trip where I have to plan anything at all, because it's so much more fun without planning anything.
Why don't you tell me like a surprise fact about Sneaky Pete? And again, what's the best scene in your eyes from Sneaky Pete?
Ooh, a surprise fact. Well, I was a big Empire Records fan, which is a movie from the 90s. And so I was really excited to work on that show, especially to be able to do scenes with Ethan Embry, because he was in the movie Empire Records and I'd seen him in a couple of different films. So I think the surprise factor that people don't know, and even Ethan doesn't know because I didn't tell him, was that I was a little bit of a geek fan when I got to do those scenes with Ethan. I thought, you know what, this is so cool. I used to watch Empire Records all the time. So that would probably be, the secret of Sneaky Pete, is that the whole time I'm doing scenes with Ethan Embry, I'm thinking, it's Ethan Embry from Empire Records.
We're not panicking.
I kept my cool. I didn't say a word, I had to keep it professional. And then one of the most fun scenes is honestly, the very last scene where I'm talking to Ethan and my assistant, and all of a sudden I start to sweat. And like, I've got a tummy ache. That was a pretty fun scene because we were in an actual casino, and just the thought of, can you imagine just the thought of like your tummy's not feeling good and now all of a sudden you have to go to the bathroom and you're in front of somebody you really like. It was just a pretty funny, crazy scenario to play out. Yeah.
I bet it was.
Really fun with that one.
Just thank God you didn't like all go act crazy on him.
Also that I didn't like have an accident right there in front of him. I'm so glad there was a bathroom nearby,
That is true.
I always wished that they would bring me back for one more episode so that I could get him back for doing that to me.
So now I want you to talk about your childhood a little bit. So can you describe your childhood and who helped you the most, you'd say, through your childhood? Like a certain family member, friend?
Well, I was very colorful and imaginative. I have 3 brothers, and there was a certain time period where they were not interested in letting me play anything with them. So while they would play games or baseball or, hang out on the field, I would play around them just so I could still be involved. So I would be like, if they were playing a baseball game, then I would pretend to be the coach and the fans and the popcorn man and the cheerleader, which was really just role playing at an early age, if you think about it. I was playing a bunch of different roles, which was really setting me up for my career. And I'd say, though, I have really great relationships with all my brothers and a really great relationship with my father. But I'd say that the relationship that really helped me the most in my lifetime has been my relationship with my mom. She and I were the only girls in our family of men growing up. We had each other. We really loved each other. And she's always reminded me that I could do anything I wanted to do and that I could be anything I wanted to be. She's always been supportive.
Yeah, and I'm glad you do, because I don't mean to keep reminding, but it reminds me of, I don't know if you heard the song. Have you heard the song Lose Yourself by Eminem?
No.
Check it out. It's Lose Yourself by Eminem. One of the last things he says, it's a little spoiler, is you can do anything you set your mind to, man. To me, that's just says it all.
What? I'm going to go listen to that after our podcast, Sam. Thank you so much. Lose Yourself, Eminem. You can do anything you put your mind to. That's right.
But the song has a backstory. I mean, I think almost Eminem, all of Eminem's stories have a background to it, but
yeah, he's got some really good stories.
He does. And they need to be heard. That's one of the reasons I admire him. So Eminem, check it out. Thank you.
I'll have to look it up. Thank you for the suggestion. But yeah, my mom was a big influence in my life. Still is.
Wow. You're welcome. Now, you also got into theater. So was the role playing the thing that you'd say influenced you in theater, or was there something else?
I really wanted to, for a time, like I said, be like my brothers. So I tried to go out for sports and I tried to go out, and do science fairs and other things like they were doing, but I wasn't good at any of that stuff. I mean, I was okay. I was average, but you know what I was good at? I was good at singing and I was good at dancing and I was good at acting. So that kind of led to show choir, which led to musicals, which led to plays. And one of the first plays I ever did was called The Mousetrap. And I actually played a man in that play. And it was really amazing. It kind of set the tone for me playing different, unique supporting roles, which I always felt like has been my main go-to. I love a really, really like juicy supportive role. So
Sure.
it's lovely that I ended up doing, something like Asta, which is not only a lead character, but still very much a supportive role, which I thrive in.
Yeah, I think you do thrive in those type of roles because they just fit you, I think.
Yeah,
honestly.
I like to be a support system, Sam.
You do. I think you try to be too. Now, you're also steering to music. So has music helped you in any way? And through your time of living, how has it changed?
Music is universal and obviously is something that I think most of us can say inspires us, depending on, the musician or the artist. The thing that was really cool for me was after I had a really hard time in my life, I had a guitar, but I didn't know how to play it. And I started plucking the strings and I loved the way the vibrations like resonated in the house and they made me calm down and they made me feel really quiet and still. And I wanted to just hear the plucking of the music. So I asked my dad how to play and he taught me. And I find that playing guitar and singing has become another form of mental health. And it has helped me tremendously just kind of get quiet and calm and focused.
Yeah, music has helped me too because I don't play music. I listen to music. That's what I like to do a lot.
Yeah.
But because what I love is about music.
Oh my gosh, so much listening and dancing and singing.
Yeah, exactly. Listening to music to me, if you think about it, it can tell you a story, the story that you can think of with the artist or a story that you can create up in your own head. Because I always listen to songs and I'm thinking, whoa, what does that line mean? Holy crap. That I would have never thought of saying that in a song.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing is hearing lyrics, like hearing a lyric that really, the one that you said with Eminem, like you can do anything you put your mind to. That's a lyric that sticks with you. That's poetry, man. Like that's really just like a mantra that you can carry with you. And I think music does that for all of us.
Exactly. We got to take a quick commercial break and we'll get back to that. We'll actually be talking about that when we get back.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Glascott from the Glass in the Afternoon radio program on News, Sports, Talk, 98.7 and AM 1370 and WGCLradio.com. And on behalf of Wellspring Pain Solutions, they're happy to partner with Sam Mitchell and the Autism Rocks and Rolls podcast. Wellspring Pain Solutions applauds Sam's mission statement to eliminate the stigma associated with autism. Here's what we want you to do. Check out the website, wellspringpainsolutions.com. You'll find out which of the 4 locations is closest to you. You'll get a chance to meet their team of providers and all the services offered at Wellspring. When you're there, now the fun really begins. You'll find the link to Sam's website where you'll find all his podcasts, background information on his guests, as well as all the merch in his merchandise store. You'll be amazed. You'll have fun. You'll enjoy it. All we ask you to do is take a listen and spread the word that autism rocks and rolls.
All right, folks, and we're back. And I don't want you too nervous to meet these fine people because they will definitely take care of your nerves. So before the commercial breaks here, we talk about writing. What would say, like, when you write, what are some of your inspirations? Like, where do they come from?
I write poetry mostly, a little bit of prose, and then I do write some songs sometimes for the guitar. And I'd say my inspiration comes from what we were talking about before with anxiety. I think my inspiration comes from thoughts and feelings that I'm dealing with. Sometimes my anxiety, it's a really great way to, when you're not sure how you feel about something, to take pen to paper and get it out of you. And that's why I love writing poetry. And then the songs that I write usually are based on a melody that I hear in my head, and I'll hear some sort of melody and I'll figure out how to pluck it on guitar, and then I'll try and find, the lyrics to follow. So sometimes it's lyrics first, music second, and sometimes it's music first, lyrics second.
So now I'm curiosity, do you think we could collaborate sometime on some writing? I know I keep asking like for all these like goodies, I guess, like with the Resident Alien, but I think we should collaborate, right? Because we both have a story to tell, A. B, I think we could probably come up with some good ideas.
Heck yeah. We should definitely collaborate.
I think we should too. But did you take any like creative writing classes or any like writing things in school or anything like that?
I did. That's why I was saying English teachers are my favorite. So I love that your mom's an English teacher. I loved English and I took a bunch of creative writing classes, and I also took poetry classes. And I've always been a fan of getting your thoughts out on paper in a poetic form. So that's what I've always endeavored to do. And one day my dream is to publish a book of poetry. So we'll see. We can collaborate on. Maybe you could write a poem in my poetry book.
I'll take it. Thank you. You're also like a big fan of the outdoors. So why is like the outdoors so important to you? And what do you do when you go out? Like yard work? Like what do you enjoy to do out there?
I love being in a garden. I love nature. I love the ocean. You know, my favorite thing about being outside is that you're really connected to the earth and you're really grounded. And I think sometimes it's really easy to kind of, just like depression and anxiety, it's easy to hide in your house. But if you go out into the sunlight, it's really, really hard to still feel sad when you're in the sunlight.
That is true. But it's actually odd. One of my friends who has a mental health issue, I won't reveal who, but she actually likes the rain and foggy. To her, that makes her a little happy. So to me, I always find that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I guess it all depends on who you are.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I love dancing in the rain. I love listening to the ocean. I love, picking up dirt with my hands and, making a new potted plant in my garden. I love taking my dog for walks. I just love the feeling of wind on my face. I just love nature. I'm a big nature junkie.
You also have this YouTube channel called Miss Education Monday. Can you give us a little sneak peek with that? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
I started Miss Education Monday right after George Floyd was murdered. It's been a year ago. Actually, yesterday was the anniversary of his death. And I call it the Great Wake Up because it was a huge moment of society, especially people that are white or with white privilege, waking up to the truth of how people of color in this nation are abused. And I feel like I got really mad after hearing stories about my education and how I wasn't being taught correct stories of history from my education. So I decided that every Monday I think I did it for, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so. Every Monday I would find a story that I thought I knew and then look up the truth about that story. And I learned a lot about people of color, people in history, the truth of many different stories that I had never heard of before. And I was really upset that I'd never heard of them. So I thought, you know what, if I haven't heard them, there's other people out there who haven't heard them. And I might as well use my platform to educate and
educate.
Yeah, to help myself.
More on racism, to educate more on segregation, to educate more on Harriet Tubman. I don't know if you did an episode on that, but
yeah, exactly. So I just, I had a little stint there during quarantine because I wasn't doing anything else. And because I was really upset and I wanted to learn, that I decided to do Miss Education Mondays as a way for other people who were listening to learn as well. And I think it went well. I think there were people that also were educated from that. But, it's so encouraging to hear most people doing their own form of education. And that's something we need to still be doing.
Yes.
Even now.
And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but maybe Sarah, because you're doing with the YouTube channel, maybe start a podcast. It's not like telling you what to do, but it's an idea got an idea what you could do.
I think that's a great idea. It's something that my friend Suzanne, one of my best girlfriends, during quarantine, we would get together every Tuesday. We would do poetry Tuesdays or dance Tuesdays, just something to keep ourselves, rejuvenated while we were in quarantine. But she also was with me in protest, and she decided to do it's called, I think, Femistry podcast, which is like feminine chemistry, and putting that together, but really talking about rights, female rights, justice, and justice for all. And so one of these days I'm supposed to be on her podcast with her and maybe even help her. So I'm on it, Sam. I'm on it.
You're just ahead of me, aren't you? You're just ahead of me. Now, you're also like a huge on toxic relationships. So I had a question. So when I was doing some research on you, during a 2019 Comic-Con interview, you said this and it kind of like resembled with me, but I didn't know what it meant. So you said new flavor of cereal. So my question basically is, what the hell did you mean?
What do you mean? What did I say again?
You said new flavor of cereal about toxic relationships in a 2019 Comic-Con interview.
I said toxic relationships was like a new flavor of cereal, huh?
Yeah, you said something about that.
Okay, I think I'd have to hear the context of the conversation, but my guess is when you are in a relationship, you have this way that you are with one another, even if it's toxic, it's familiar. Okay. So let's say your favorite cereal is Cheerios, right? And so when you're in a toxic relationship, no matter what, you're always eating the Cheerios. But if you try something new, if you try to get out of that routine and you go and find some new flavor of cereal, like Lucky Charms, you realize you've been missing out this whole time on a relationship that's better for you, that's healthier, that's colorful, that's not Cheerios. The problem is
it's not bland. It's not dull anymore.
It's not bland. It's not dull. It's not causing you pain. The problem is most of the time, we all as humans have a hard time with change. So even if you're in a toxic relationship, you might stay in it just because it's familiar. But if you're willing to try to get out of it and try something new and try to take care of yourself, you'll be rewarded with Lucky Charms. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Okay. When you said, because I loved it when you said that, but I thought, what? Because I thought it was really cool. It was cool.
I like metaphor, and I'm sure I was just, what I meant to say was like, you got to try new things. You can't stay in the same relationship forever. It's not doing anything. It's not going anywhere, and it's certainly not helping you.
It's not helping. It's just harm. It's just you're going to get more hurt and hurt. You can't change them. You might as well.
Yeah, you might have good cholesterol because of those Cheerios, but that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we have one more commercial break, but then we'll wrap up here, and then we will talk about actually more about your personal life, just some of your hobbies. So let's do it. Perfection Auto Glass is the largest independent auto glass company in the state of Indiana, serving Bloomington, Fishers, Terre Haute, Greenwood, Anderson, and Muncie. They specialize in all aspects of auto glass repair and replacement on everything from domestic and import vehicles, RVs, heavy trucks, and equipment repairing glass, outside mirrors, windows, regulators, and motors. Perfection Auto Glass has trained and certified technicians that recalibrate the camera attached to your windshield to ensure your lane departure warning and ADS safety features are working properly. Their staff has more than 100 years of combined experience and uses the highest quality glass and sealants in the industry. If your windshield or windows are damaged in any way, just have them replace it or repair it as soon as possible for the safety of you and your loved ones. They offer both in-shop and mobile services, as well as same-day service. Perfection Auto Glass works directly with all insurance companies, and their staff is committed to the highest level of quality service and attention to details that customers have come to expect. They understand that getting your vehicle back on the road as soon as possible is important to you. You can visit them online at perfectionautoglassindiana.com to learn more about their services and for a free quote, which I think is kind of cool, by the way, may I add. But anyway, please call Perfection Auto Glass for any and all your auto glass needs. All right, folks, and we're back. And yes, please check them out because they are perfect, believe me. Sarah, you earlier mentioned you're friend with Alice Wetterland or Darcy. Are you friends like in real life as well or just on the show?
We are friends in real life as well. Now, we weren't friends before the show because we didn't know each other, but now we're the best of friends.
Now, I know the show helped you guys out, but what offset made you guys just click, honestly?
I admire Alice because she's so honest and she's so hilarious, but she's also really good about being honest about being messy. And I think I'm somebody who's an advocate of messy. And I say messy meaning people always walk around having it all together and acting like they have it all together. But the truth is nobody really knows what they're doing. Everybody's just walking around trying to figure it out. And Alice is the kind of person who's just totally honest about that. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. And she's in your face about it. And she's so brutally honest, but in the best, most beautiful way.
That's like Darcy, sort of. She's kind of in your face.
She lives out loud. She lives proud. She knows the mistakes she's made. She knows who she is. And she's very strong and very capable. And she's one of the most fun people to be around. She's one of my new favorite friends.
Now, we'll wrap up. Now, these four, they're just for fun. So my first one is, what's your favorite food or paradise meal, I guess, and why is it your favorite? Oh
gosh, I love a charcuterie board. I love to have options. Do you know what charcuterie is?
No, ma'am.
It's like a meat board. So you have different meats, different cheeses, different nuts and fruits.
Like a meat tray. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah. My husband and I live for a charcuterie board. And you know what's great about it? You can mix and match whatever you want that day, but it usually involves meats and cheeses. Sometimes there's olives, sometimes there's nuts. I always love combining fruit and dates. And I love that. I could eat it for every meal of the day. It's one of my favorites.
Now on the meat though, what's your favorite meat though? Like pepperoni, salami, hot dog? Prosciutto. Okay.
Prosciutto. I call it meat candy.
Yeah.
You ever had it?
I think I have.
You got it. You know what? I'm going to go listen to that Eminem song and you go find some prosciutto and have some on me. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. What is your favorite movie or TV show and why do you like it? And you could say the ones you've been on, or you could say a total new one. Your call. You want to answer it.
Oh my gosh. My favorite movie. Whoo, that's a tough question. But you know what? I have to say one of my favorite movies of all time is called Reality Bites. It's from the 90s. Ben Stiller directed it. Can you believe it? Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke are in it, Janine Garofalo. It's wonderful. And it's all about dealing with being human beings and how messy that can be in the 90s in Texas. So I love that film. And the TV show that I'd say is my favorite, I was a big fan of Dawson's Creek and Felicity back in the day when I was younger. I watched those a ton. One of my biggest TV show favorites of all time, though, is Twin Peaks. It is so good and so weird. My husband and I are big geeks of Twin Peaks.
It seems like so.
We're Twin Peak geeks.
Yeah. I was ready to joke around and make a pun with Twin Peaks, but I didn't think that would work. Like Twin Peaks because you were in Sneaky.
Or Twin Geeks. We're Twin Geeks.
Sounds like so. What has been like your favorite vacation that you have ever taken and why did you enjoy it very much?
My favorite vacation? Oh man, good question. My husband and I went to Joshua Tree and he got us this tent to stay in that's kind of like glamping where you have a heater and a bed, but it's still a tent. And we saw all the stars and we played Yahtzee, which I actually got a Yahtzee like twice in a row. My best time ever playing that game. We just had so much fun being out in nature and the stars and the desert. Joshua Tree is one of our favorite places. And we think about that trip all the time. We love it.
I'm glad you enjoy it. And it's tropicals. Where is that located? Because I've never been there.
Desert. So it's not tropical, but it's definitely got these cool trees that look like they're, from out of this world. And it's really close to the stars. It's what it feels like when it's nighttime. It feels like all the stars come out to say hello and the sunsets are gorgeous. It's a really magical, sacred land in Joshua Tree.
This is the final question. Are there any good memories that you would tell our viewers about? If you do, why do you remember that memory the most? But I want like a good memory that made you feel good and a memory that made you fall on the floor, but it can be any funny memory with like Resident Alien one, Sneaky Pete one, just with yourself one. Your call.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of falling on the floor, it's a memory I have in Canada. I was with my husband. We were in an apartment in Canada and I was talking to him and I don't really remember what I was saying, but I scooted back and I fell off the floor. I fell off the bed onto the floor and I made this sound. Ooh! Which I've never made that sound in my entire life, Sam. I don't know why that's the sound that came out of my mouth, but it's the thing that makes me laugh every time I think about that memory. I think about falling and humility and how there are just sounds that come out of our bodies sometimes when we are in total shock. And I think that's
and no offense, you sound like my grandmother, honestly.
I don't know how that sound came out of my mouth. You're right. I sounded you're right, like an old lady just falling over. Yeah. It was hilarious.
And it reminds me of a story too of my grandma isn't afraid of roller coasters, but my dad, like when he was younger, convinced her to take her on. So when my grandma was going up, she's like, oh my, oh
my.
Praying that she doesn't die.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many good memories, but I will give you one from the Resident Alien show. And that's when I told you my friend Meredith Garrettson, she's one of my best friends. When she showed up the first day to Canada and we realized that we were going to be in a show together, she had just gotten out of the airport and she got dropped off by a car. And you know, those like spinning doors, she like came through the spinning door, just like so happy, biggest smile on her face. And we just had the biggest hug in the lobby of that hotel that we were staying in. And I'll never forget how excited we were to not only be best friends, but to start a journey of being on a show together. It was awesome. It still is.
Well, I think that's all. But before we go, first of all, do you have anything you'd like to, any closing remarks or anything you'd like to promote?
No, not at the time. I mean, I want to promote Autism Rocks and Rolls. Keep coming back for more podcasts. Sam is the best. That's what I'm promoting.
Thank you. And I'll tell you this too. Out of the guests I've had, you're probably one of my favorites. You're on the top 5.
Sam, I'd love to do this with you again sometime for season 2. Okay. So make sure your mom hits me back up after season 2 airs.
I will. Thank you, Sarah. You have a great night.
Thank you. Thanks, Gina.
Are you hearing about me?
Thanks for joining for this episode. Please tune in for another episode coming in very soon. Hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble. Thank you very much.
How you dealing without me?